Hello, everyone. Ricky Borba here. If it's Thursday night at 7 o'clock, you know what time it is. It's time for another episode of And Action, brought to you by Slate Click and CalCap Studios. We have got a legend tonight. I love this job so much because I get the opportunity to talk to so many different people in the industry who are involved in different aspects of the industry: sound, music, lighting, acting, the whole thing. We've talked to directors and producers, but we have got an iconic person tonight who just has so many incredible stories. He's got a book. It's brand new. It's The Life of a Blue Collar Actor from Tobacco Road to Buckingham Palace, by way of New York theater and Hollywood films. Ladies and gentlemen, it is my distinct honor to welcome Jordan Rhodes. Hey, he's got the book. I've got the book. We've all got the book. Hello, Jordan.
Hi, Ricky.
Good. I'm glad to have you. Your friend Charles is my friend Charles. I've heard a lot about you. But instead of me telling what I've heard, I'm going to actually read your bio because it's pretty impressive. So here we go. This is the flattery portion of the show. Jordan Rhodes has been called the quintessential working actor. His acting career spans 5 decades and includes over 200 roles in film, television, and theater. Jordan prefers to call himself a blue-collar working actor, a jobber that's still working at his trade more than 45 years after his first television debut. Some of his most notable and memorable roles were shows and films such as Bonanza, Matlock, Battlestar Galactica, Green Acres, The Bill Cosby Show, The Streets of San Francisco, and All the King's Men. He has also portrayed Ernest Hemingway in the award-winning play Papa, The Man, the Myth, and the Legend. His new book, The Life of a Blue-Collar Actor from Tobacco Road to Buckingham Palace, by way of New York theater and Hollywood films, is out now. Jordan Rhodes, that's your bio. Welcome to the show.
Who is that guy? Where is that guy?
That's what I'd like to know. You've got. I mean,
and by the way, Charles is not just my friend; he's also my manager.
Right? So. Yeah. I don't. Yeah, Charles is the man. I don't ever put that out publicly unless you're okay with it. You're okay with it. Charles manages you. He's a guy that. Yep. He produced my film, our film. I shouldn't say my, our film. Look how thick this book is, though, and it's just full of really cool stories from your entire life, which spans working with and for some of the most iconic names in Hollywood history. I mean, you're royalty. You are Hollywood royalty. But before we get into any of that, this show is primarily watched by people who are up and coming, who want to break into the industry. Now I'm talking to a guy who has worked for over 5 decades. At 34, I don't even know how that's possible, Jordan. You're a 34-year-old man who's worked for 5 decades in the industry. But you talk about the importance of your theater. And you say in the book that it's one of the best ways to train yourself up, and that the theater is one of the most important training grounds for actors. I'd like you to talk about that.
Well, sure. I'm a big believer in that. I think that theater is the best training ground for you. And of course, just a couple of corrections here. I know that press release that you had, it's actually more than 55 years in the business. And I have been a working actor for that period of time, starting here. Of course, I started in Baltimore, Maryland, when I got involved in the theater, doing theater. And going to summer stock once I got to New York, I do think that is theater in general is a great training ground because and when I go out and do things with these young actors, I don't really like these theater groups and these teachers that do things and they have cameras in the classroom and they're teaching all of these young actors about the camera. The only reason I want an actor to know about the camera is I want him to know where it is so he can avoid it. I don't want him playing to the camera and then he's worrying about his best side and his good side and if he's going to get coverage. Because if you do the job that you're supposed to do as an actor, if you do the job, the director will give you the coverage. He'll get you the coverage when the show comes out. But if you get all involved in about what you look like and how you look and all of that, it's just not the way I work as an actor. It's not the way I was trained.
Sure.
I also believe that it's very important for you to have teachers and to go to class and to learn your instrument and to learn how to do what we're supposed to do with our emotions in this business to move audiences and things like that. So yes, the theater to me, and I was very lucky. I did summer stock, and I was very lucky, I think, to do that. I've always felt that I was lucky to get my jobs anyway.
Yeah.
And there were some big jobs I missed. But, when you work in this business for a long period of time, coming from my background. I mean, I came from in the summertime, I used to go and work on my uncle's tobacco farm.
Yep.
And he was a sharecropper. He wasn't a big guy or anything. He was a sharecropper. And I used to go there and do that. And to go from that into this business, make a living in the business, and then to wind up at Buckingham Palace, the Queen's house, at a cocktail reception hosted by Prince Philip as one of the American celebrities to play in this tournament over there. That's the reason that Leo Penn, who was Sean Penn's dad, Leo was the one to tell me years ago. He said, "Kid, you got to write these stories down. They're gold." And that's what made me really start doing the book. And that's the one thing I have to thank the pandemic for, because I sat down, no work, obviously, for any of us in the business since last March, and still not. I sat down during the pandemic, and I wrote for 67 days, 4 hours a day.
Wow.
And that's when I finished my book. And I got really lucky to get Charles up with the Cal Cap Publishing Company out there to publish my book. And I would tell any young actor, go out and get it, because they're not only just stories in the book, but there are things where you can see that how you might be able to make a living in this business without being involved with becoming a star. Because the incredible thing about our business, Ricky, is that less than 2% of the people in our business are stars. Less than 2%. But that less than 2% attracts about 98% of the people that want to be actors. And so a lot of people come into the business wanting to be a movie star. And there is a huge difference between being a movie star and being an actor. Most of the movie stars that I know, and I do know a few that some I even made the rounds with here in New York, when we were struggling and getting work and doing that kind of thing, none of those guys thought they were going to be movie stars, and some of them became movie stars. In fact, a few of them are two-time Academy Award winners. But you don't start out that, to me, that can't be your goal.
Agreed.
This is a tough business. It's a tough business to make a living in. It's a tough business to work in, and you just have to kind of have a mindset that allows you to do that, to go out and do your job. And I tell young actors, people like James Cagney gave some great acting advice. James Cagney used to say, "You plant your feet, you look the other guy right in the eye, and you tell the truth." And that, in a nutshell, is really what I mean. You learn different things from people like Lee Strasberg, whom I studied with, Carl Redkop, who was the best teacher I ever had, Dr. Isla Motloff, who I worked with. He worked with Stanislavski in the Moscow Art Theater. And for any of you young actors out there that don't know who Stanislavski is, if you see that name on the cap and you think it's a Polish tractor maker, you need to go out and find out that that's not who Stanislavski is. That's right. That's a technique of acting.
So
And
Jordan,
I really stole that from Leo Penn. Leo used to have that on his hat. He had Stanislavski. And one time when I was doing one of the shows that I did for Leo, and thank God he put my career on the map, and a young actress came over to him and said, I'm not picking on the women, but a young actress came over to him, and she looked up at his cap, and she tried to pronounce it. She said, Stanislavski, what is that? And Leo said, it's a Polish tractor maker. And so he kind of felt that if you didn't know who Stanislavski was, you need to go out and find out.
Yeah. Jordan, you had a couple good nuggets there. One of them was that 2% of the actors make up the top tier of the actors, which deters 98%. I will say this. If you're trying to get into show business to become the next Tom Cruise or Brad Pitt, don't, because you're not. You can't do that. And then secondly, I love what you had to say about the ability of an actor to learn the older methods, because those are extremely important. So we could go on and on about that, but I wanted to ask you something, because I don't love this term when it's thrown around, and it's on the front cover of your book, and that's fine. No big deal. But to me, you're more than that, and that is a character actor. I would like you to explain in Jordan Rhodes' terminology what a character actor is.
Well, a character actor to me is, fortunately, Sean Penn, it's on my book, has said that I'm one of the best character actors that we have in the business. And a character actor to me is an actor that, if you go back and look at the roles that I've done, obviously when I was a younger man, people say I was one of my friends said, boy, I looked at your book, you were a handsome dude. When I was a younger guy, I had the quote leading man qualities, if you want to say that.
Yeah.
But I was constantly doing things like the farmer in the Daniel Boone show that was, and I wasn't trying to find little, I didn't try to find little gimmicks or anything, but if I was playing a certain guy, this would give me an opportunity to tell a really good story about what cemented my relationship with Leo Penn. The first really big show that I got as a character actor in California was I did a Marcus Welby show called We Will Walk Out of Here Together. And it was the first show they had ever done that was based on a true story. And it was about this young truck driver who had had an accident. He was paralyzed, and he was down in one of the rehabilitation centers. And this young girl who was a writer, played by Sean Barbara Allen, she's a wonderful actress, and she came down with spinal meningitis. So she went down to this center, and she met Bobby Hershey. That was my character's name. And she met Bobby Hershey, and of course, she fell in love with him. Now, when I got that role, which I won't bore the listeners or the watchers with how I got the role, Leo brought me in for that role and really fought for me to get that role.
Yeah.
And once I got the role, I know when I went on the second callback, there were about 14, 15 people in that room, and I was as nervous as a cat on a hot tin roof. Because I had, I went back, had the first call as an audition with just a few people, Leo and the producer and some people. I went back, there were 14, 15 people there. And they had some contract players that they wanted for this role.
Yeah.
And Leo was he was insistent that I get the role. So when I got the role, I went to Leo and I said to him, look, I said, this guy's in a wheelchair and I know we're going to be filming in this rehabilitation center down in Orange County. I said, is there any way that the studio would allow me to go down there and like live with these guys for a few days? And Leo looked at me and he said, kid, you want to go down there and you want to work with these guys? He said, don't you worry about it. I'll get the studio to do it. And so I went down there, and that didn't really have anything to do with a method or
Sure.
Years ago when I first came out to California, if you came out of the actor studio and you'd worked with Lee Strasberg and these people, you were thought of, there were method actors and technique actors.
Yeah.
I think that's a bunch of malarkey. I think every actor has his own method. You can't tell me that somebody like Peter O'Toole is not an incredible actor and he's not, quote, I don't know that he's certainly not in the actor studio.
Right.
But there's a technique. Yeah, you learn how to do certain things with your emotions. So I went down, and I did. I spent 2 or 3 days down there learning how to do this wheelchair and watching these guys that didn't have use of their legs getting in and out of the chair and getting in bed and that kind of things. And that's what I did. And so to me, that's what a character actor is.
Yeah.
I wasn't trying to be a good-looking young guy that the girl fell in love with. I was a truck driver that had a bad accident, and I was now paralyzed. And in the show, he leaves her at the end. So character actors to me are people that can portray different characters honestly and believably. So when the audience goes out, they don't really necessarily think that, I know people walk out of films and probably somebody says, who was that guy that played he came up there to the door and knocked on the door and told David Morris that his father had killed himself. Well, what was his name? That guy was good.
Yeah.
And that was Jordan Rhodes. Obviously, when they come out of a movie and they've seen Steve McQueen or George Clooney or those people, they come out and they go, boy, McQueen was really good. And and George McClooney was really good. But character actors, I really believe that, and I don't think the blue-collar actors get their due in Hollywood. I just wrote a letter to the Hollywood Reporter about this. They don't get coverage. And you go and you ask any of the stars, and there are a lot of some of the stars are just terrific to work with. They're great people, and not everybody, but that's life. But they're really great. And you go and you ask them, how much do you depend on your supporting actors? Your blue collar actors, to me, they're the spine, the backbone, the backbone, the foundation, the support, of the business. That's what you do. You're there to do. And when you're in that. See, I'm one of those people that I believe that everybody in a film, everybody in a TV show, nobody is more important than somebody else.
Yeah, I agree with you. So I'm so glad you said that, because one of the things I talk about and preach about on this show almost weekly is the importance of having a positive attitude. And as I'm reading your book, excuse me, which you can find on bluecollaractor.com, one of the things I really noticed and appreciated about your book was your positive, jovial attitude, even when you're telling stories. And I don't want to, get into the weeds on these stories, but there are some stories in this book that are not fun for you to talk about, I can imagine, but your perspective and how you talk about them are positive. So one of the things I always say on the show, because I've directed 2 films and I really appreciate it, is when I don't care who you are, if you're the executive producer or the PA, I need you to have a positive attitude, because that goes farther than any skill on earth. I'd rather work with someone hungry and has a positive attitude than the top billed actor in the world who's just phoning it in. So can you talk a little bit about the importance of having a positive attitude?
Well, yeah, I mean, I think it's to me, it's absolutely you have to have that, because if you don't have that, it's kind of like showing up at a picnic. Somebody invites you to a picnic and you show up at the picnic and you don't even bring a jar of pickles.
Yeah.
You show up at the picnic. But to me, when you show up, you bring and young actors have to learn this too. The thing to do, I'm a big believer in that acting to act is to do.
Mm-hmm.
And I used to tell some actors, even when I was a young actor, I'd worked for Leo Penn a few times. And so I would meet another actor and they would be on the set with me. And whether we were doing whatever it was, a Matlock or Marcus Welby or any of the shows that Leo was directing, maybe one of the TV films.
Yeah.
But a young actor would come up to me and he'd say, I'm going to go to the director because I got this great idea I want to do on this thing. And I would tell them, in television, you don't have the time that you have in a film.
Yeah.
You have the amount of days. Generally, if you're doing a television series, you're doing a show. I'm not talking about if you're the star, but if you're one of the actors coming into that show, it's done in about, when I was there, it was generally about 7 days. That was it. It's 6,
Okay.
7 days. So I would tell them, I would stop them before they would get over to Leo. And I would say, don't go over and ask him, show him what you want to do in the rehearsal.
I like that. I
Be
like that, Jordan.
dedicated and show him. And then if you show him something and he doesn't like what you're doing, he will say, wait, hold up there, Jordan. Wait a minute. I don't think you should do that. Let's try.
Yeah.
But if he likes what you're doing, then he might come over to you and say, hey, that's really good. Give me more of that.
Yeah.
And there's some actors that do that. I'm sure you might have seen the clip when I did The Night Stalker with Darren McGavin.
Yes.
And it was kind of funny because we had this scene. Actually, I was supposed to have been a recurring character, Dr. O'Brien, but I had other engagements, and so I couldn't recur on the show. But we had this, the first scene we had together is I have this line where he asked me to do something, and I say, come on, I'm just a doctor here taking pity on an old aging reporter. And I wanted to poke at his little tummy that was hanging out a little bit. And I thought, well, in the rehearsal, I'm going to take a shot at it, and he will either, as a star, say, hey, don't be making any comment about my belly. Let's leave that alone.
Right.
Or as Darren Gavin was, I did that in the rehearsal, and Darren Gavin said to me, hey, I like that. Do more of that in that scene. Really poke me down there.
I love it.
And so that to me, you have that positive attitude. Don't ever be afraid that you're going to try something that they're going to tell you. The worst they can tell you is that, hey, no, we don't like that. So take that down. But I always say, bring as much as you can bring to the party, and keep that attitude. Don't, in this business, I mean, come on, you mentioned this before. In my book, there are a lot of big jobs I missed.
Yeah.
I missed replacing the Roger that left MASH.
Yep.
When Wayne Rogers left that because they said I was too similar to Alan Alda. So I went in, did a nice audition. They put it on tape and all that. And I had other things I was never able to do. Might not know it by what I look like today, but I was never able to do Gunsmoke.
Yeah.
Because when I was younger and had my big Adam's apple and all of that stuff, I did have a great similarity to Dennis Weaver.
Yes, you did.
When you like Dennis Weaver, they didn't want you back on Gunsmoke because Chester was gone. And
yeah, that's right. Well, I'm glad you brought that up because the flip side of the positive attitude coin for me is the how to deal with rejection coin. And in this industry, rejection looks like you didn't get the role. And Jordan, let's be frank with each other. And this is not to say anything bad about you, but you talk equally in this book about all the roles you didn't get as much as you talk about the roles you did get. You are very honest with yourself in this book about I missed this and I missed that, but I got this and got that. But to all of the people watching who are up and coming, and I know a few of you who have gone out for roles and don't get them. Sometimes for whatever reason, I don't know if it's because they make that their identity or what, but they let it just wreck them for days and weeks and months, and you see them later and they're like, they haven't gotten over it. What is some advice you have for some of these youngsters coming up who are not going to get every role they go out for?
Yeah, I've got some great advice for them, and I do this sometimes when I do one of my seminars or things with young actors, and I tell them, all you can really ask for in this business is when you go in for an audition is to go in and do the absolute best that you can do. Do the absolute best you can do. If you come out of the audition and you feel like you did the best that you could do, then you have to let it go.
Yeah.
Come out and that's your reward. As you say, boy, I nailed that. I really, that's your reward.
Yeah.
If you come out and you say, man, I wish I'd have tried this. I wish I'd have tried that. Do that on your next audition at some other time. But just try to do the best that you can do, and then you have to let it go. You can't, you just can't, you can't. I only one time in my entire career that I get bugged enough. I was doing well enough. I got bugged enough by losing a job. It was a new cop series, and it was a series. And I had worked for the director, Judd. Oh Lord, his name's going to leave me right now. But anyway, he had directed me in a couple of things, and he was directing the pilot for this new series. And already you were guaranteed some stuff. And I went in and auditioned. I didn't get it.
Yeah.
And they gave it to another actor that I was not particularly fond of. I didn't think he was that great of an actor, but that wasn't for me to say. So I got kind of bugged, and I actually went home, packed the suitcase the minute I found out I didn't get it. And I went out to LAX airport, and I got on a plane, and I flew to New York to visit a friend of mine who was working on a soap opera. So.
Wow. There you go. So, Jordan, we have about 6 minutes left, and there's a lot more questions I wrote, but I'm going to do 3. So we're going to bang, bang, bang these. So question number 1 is, it's not a question. I want you to tell people about your Buckingham Palace story, going there as a celebrity and what that was like, and the ashtray situation and all that with your buddy. What happened there?
Okay. The Buckingham Palace thing was really amazing because, as you see in the book, I really wasn't working at the time, but I had done Streets of San Francisco for 3 seasons, and it was playing over there. So I got invited to go to Buckingham Palace with these American celebrities. They wanted to have, Prince Philip wanted to have a Duke of Edinburgh award scheme tournament, which pitted the European celebrities against American celebrities. And forgive me, I won't remember all of them, but our team was Telly Savalas, Fred McMurray, Robert Stack, Glenn Campbell, Steve, I can't think of his last name. He's what's his name's brother. But that was that, and of course I was Ernie Borgnine.
Yes.
Myself. So we went there, and we were the American celebrities, and I got to tell you, it was great. First class round trip transportation into London, and you get off the plane in London, and you got these wonderful young ladies dressed in these orange jumpsuits chauffeuring you in your Rolls Royce over to the hotel. And I mean, it was really great. We wound up at Buckingham Palace, and I got this one kind of story that I'll try to do real quick for you. But we go to, and to tell you the kind of guy that Ernie Borgnine was, I loved him. I had worked with Ernie in the thing when he did Vince Lombardi. He did that story. I acted with him in that. And anyway, we're in Buckingham Palace, and all of a sudden, Ernie comes over to me, and he goes, Jordy, have you been to the men's room yet? And I said, no. He said, you got to go. You got to go. I said, what? He said, Jordan, they got gold toilet seats in there and gold fixtures. Everything's gold. And so to me, that was, if you can imagine Ernie Borgnine, who was a wonderful actor and talent, really, I love him, terrific guy. But that was the kind of thing that was happening. Of course, I will let everybody know that we went out and proceeded to get skunked by the English. They just beat our ears off. But Glenn Campbell held his own. Robert Stack did pretty well. I did not win mine, and the biggest match I played was against Roger Waters from what is that? He has a big group. I can't think of the name of it, but anyway, that's my story. Except that I did shank my first drive off the first tee with all of the television cameras and everybody there when the guy announced, and now coming up for the first tee is Mr. Jordan Rhodes from Streets of San Francisco, District Attorney there, Mr. Rhodes. And I stepped up. I'm nervous as a cat. Yeah. And proceeded to shank the ball. And I don't know if you know, but in England, the people they don't stand behind ropes. They stand behind these little metal things that, like here in New York, you put your bike on. Oh. They're like these little metal bars. Yeah. And, just 1 or 2 or 3. But my ball went over, hit the top rung of that thing on the left when I shanked my tee shot. Wow. Hit the top thing. About 14 people hit the ground because they thought it was going to get hit by the ball. Yeah. It ricocheted back out right in the middle of the fairway, and Telly Savalas, who was standing behind me, said, Way to go, Jordy, right down the middle, baby, right down
Oh
the
my
middle.
God. Hey, that's a good tally, Savalas. Okay, so we've got time for one more question. We've got about 3.5 minutes left. More stories like that are in this book, bluecollaractor.com. The last thing I would love for you to talk about is we're coming out of this pandemic. Something very near and dear to your heart, as we talked about at the top of the show, is theater. You play an incredible Ernest Hemingway. You have a show called Papa. We're hopefully, with our fingers crossed, prayerfully opening up September. Talk about Papa and what's coming up for you.
Well, if we can get Papa the Man, the Myth, the Legend, if we can actually get that, and there's a lot of stuff going on because of the documentary that's been playing the last 3 nights about Hemingway. And of course, just so that we make it clear to everybody, I don't do the role anymore. I played the role for 5 years, and I don't do the role anymore. But if this money comes through for Broadway, and I'm going after some big stars. I'm going after Michael Douglas. I'm going after Nick Nolte. I'm going after George Clooney. I'm going after some big people to star in the role. And if I bring the money in, the thing that excites me is I'm going to get to direct it.
That's great.
I created it, I wrote it, and of course I performed it for 5 years. And I don't think anybody else can direct it better than me. And we might make an 8-part series out of it too.
Ooh. That's fun. As you see, we're on a live show. It is almost summer. My kids are out of school, so my son, my 3.5-year-old son, just popped over and said hi. I love that kind of stuff. All right, so we have 2 minutes left. I want you to talk about the films you're working on. One, I've had the privilege of reading the script for. I love it. You are still working, Jordan. So tell us about these films that you're going to get going, hopefully.
Well, McCabe and Little Jesse is my favorite in that package. That's about an old kind of cranky guy who's an ex-Marine, a retired tool salesman. He's never been married. He's never had any kids. He doesn't particularly like kids or anything. He's got one younger brother, and that younger brother is married and has a little 9-year-old daughter.
Yep.
And the brother and the wife get killed in a car wreck. And McCabe, that's the character I hope to play. I want to direct the film, and if we can get it done, I won't be too old to play it. But anyway, he then gets he's a guardian of this little 9-year-old kid, and he doesn't really know how to do it. The townspeople don't like that he's this old guy dating this younger waitress down at the diner. Right. And now he's got this little girl, and they try to take her away from him. And he goes. The log line is Jesse needed McCabe. McCabe discovered he needed little Jessie, and no one was going to take her away.
I love it. What a way to end our show. If you want more of this kind of stuff, get this book. Jordan Rhodes, thanks for being on the show. You are a delight, sir.
My pleasure. My pleasure. Thank you very much, Ricky. Thank you.
All right.